Hey y'all, this is AL Big Madame, and this is the recap review for Tyler Perry's Sistas. So it started where it left off, where Danny was at the house, where James, the bartender, and Preston, the cowboy, they were in there. And Preston, at this point, he is just like, look, I'm done. I ain't gonna talk about it, ain't nothing to discuss. And she really is trying to get him to stay this so that she could, explain herself. He was like, I can't, I ain't got time for it. I'm tired of my spirit. So he left. So James doing the most. He did the most when he came out there. And I'm just like, anyway, so Danny turns to him, then went off on this man, told him to get out of her house. So as he's leaving the house, Zach then popped up. And so old boy had the audacity to be like, oh, so this is what you got going on up in here. You got all these men running in and out of your house. Oh, okay. And I wanted to say, like, and who are you? Like, Maurice told us how you get down. So why are you trying to act like you're an angel and that this was someone you were trying to get to know for real? And then you were trash, apparently, on top of all of that. Like, you done did all of this. You done put out all your fancy tricks. And as nasty and as freaky as Danny pretends to be, she wasn't here for none of what you was doing. So you acting like you done did something and you ain't did nothing. Like this lady at my job used to say, why you think you got something? I was just like, what is he doing? It looks so uncomfortable. But anyway, he left. So Zach come inside and he looking like, what you got going on up in here? I ran into Cowboy on the way in. Like, what is going on? How you got two men in here? So she ain't trying to hear it. She cussing him out, telling him to get out, leave her alone, all this other stuff. So he proceeds to come in and he was like, look, I ain't here for all that. I came to take you to work. And so she was like, oh, that is so sweet of you to let me be able to ride on your handlebars. Because y'all know he had a bike. And so he was like, nah, I have a truck. So she looking like, you ain't got no truck. Where you get a truck from? And he looking like, don't worry about it, it's my truck. So then she thinks about it and she's like, you know what? You better be glad I ain't got no gas. So you stay right there. So she went to go get ready for work and she told him to sit on the couch and wait for her. So then they on the way to work and they talking. And like, he seems like he's very serious and asking her, how was she able to get two men to be in her apartment virtually looking like they in the apartment at the same time? You got two whole men at the house. What is going on? And so she in her feelings, she don't want to talk to him about nothing, and she's just done at this point, for right now at least. So then he was just like, well, okay, whatever. So anyway, Fatima called him. Why in the world did Zach put the phone on speakerphone and start talking to her like he was in the car by himself? I was like, you're dumb. You must really be dumb for real. I'm not understanding why you thought that was a smart idea, because ain't no way Danny gonna just sit there and not say something. So anyway, of course, Danny said something and I was just like, oh my gosh. So he hung up the phone. I didn't know if he hung up the phone or not, but then they let us know that he had, basically hung up the phone because he talked to Danny. It was like, look, don't worry about what I got going on. Don't worry about who this is. Don't say nothing. I'm about to call her back. So he called her back. She answered the phone and she was like, hey, I had a good time. That's what she said the first time. She was like, hey, I had a good time last night, whatever. So he called back. Fatima thought she'd done something wrong. And so he was like, no, she was like, oh, well, I thought I said something wrong. And so she was in, her little mood and she was talking to him. And then Danny gonna sit up there and chime in and act like she's some bitter baby mama who wants him to spend time with his children and all this other stuff. And so Zach quickly let Fatima know that she is his coworker, his friend, and ain't nothing going on and all of that. And so she was like, look, it would take way more than that for anybody to make me feel some type of way. I am very secure. So I was like, yes, you better do that. So anyway, Danny, is still trying to figure out how in the world he has this truck. And she really is at the point where she's like, let me out this truck. I got stuff on me. She stay having gas. She stay having the gas on her. She has that gas, but she ain't never got gas in her car. That's always a mystery to me. It's people like that don't never have nothing but drugs. It's like, how you have weed all the time, but you ain't never got the money that you need for your. I'm not understanding the stuff that is necessary in life. Now, a lot of people think that weed is necessary. I don't think that's a necessity, but I don't smoke, so I wouldn't know. But for her, she don't never have no gas. I'm like, girl. So anyway, Danny was supposed to. I mean, not Danny. Andy was supposed to be at work. Like, supposed to be in at work. She was supposed to have that meeting with the big boss and all that stuff. So you could tell she running late. Everybody's trying to figure out where she is. So Fatima sees her when she come in the door. She stopped her right away. She was like, where have you been? They've been looking for you. Everybody's been waiting on you. Everybody's been wondering where you've been. And so she was like, I'm sorry, I'm late. We already know as the viewer where she's been. I guess if she hadn't been laid up with old boy with his mama busting in the room, she would have still been laying up in there and missed the whole meeting. But anyway, so Fatima was like, look, just follow his lead. Like, that's all she kept saying to her. And I'm looking like, who is he? So they go in the meeting. It's the big boss, and then it's the dude, that's the other lawyer, whose name is Hayden. Well, is that his first name or his last name? I don't know. They say Hayden. So they in there. And so the big boss is like, well, we know that you want to sue us and, you know, all this stuff that happened. And we actually did an investigation, and everything that you said has turned out to be true. So we are willing to settle. We know that you're going to want to sue us, so we're willing to settle. And so he throw out this money. At first, I think he said was $1 million and a good letter of recommendation. And so eventually Andy is like, well, why is it that you think that I wouldn't want to still work here? Like, I would love to still work here. I love this firm. And so she throws out an offer. She looking like her offer is, eventually she said something about $2 million, keeping her job, Fatima getting a raise, and actually her getting old boy's job because he got fired. What is his name? Bellamy. Bellamy got fired because, you know, he was in cahoots with all this stuff going on. So it's like he was doing the absolute most. I would have never thought they would have did that, but they set it off. And so the man was sitting up there mad with her, like, why did you come to me when all this stuff was going on? And then she was like, well, I told Bellamy that I didn't want anything to do with this case because I was like, yeah, you are supposed to recuse yourself when you have any type of conflict of interest. I was like, what's the word? Because I know I had to do it a few times for some cases I had as a social worker. So, woo child. And it wasn't because, like, it was a relative or nothing like that. It was because, like, one case I had to recuse myself was because the neighborhood that they lived in, it was the neighborhood that my grandmama and them lived in, and I'm pretty sure they were related to me in some way. So I went along on the ride to the case, and then I found out later on that they are indeed related to me, but they were just some people who we never, like, associated with like that, and the most was going on in that situation. I was like, woo, child. But I mean, it wasn't no, like, close relation, but they really were related. So had to recuse myself. So anyway, they in there. And so in all honesty, the way it went down was Hayden had created this whole scenario and made them look like this is a big mess. Y'all have done all of this. This could be career suicide for her. Like, you could tell that this is all of the things that have been implanted into her big boss's mind. And he looking like, y'all gonna have to settle because if she go around talking to people, it's gonna be worse than that. So y'all better come up off some good money. Eventually they end up settling on like 1.2 million or something like that. Fatima did get her raise, and she was able to get Bellamy's job because she was able to sell him on the point of, you need diversity. They need to see a woman and a black woman at that in this position instead of just the same old good old boy type situation, and y'all just overlooking the fact that there are other people who actually are better at their jobs at times. So yeah, so she was able to do all that. Y'all, Karen came to work, and she immediately was thrown into work, and she was supposed to be doing this woman who was the first lady of this church. Well, Karen didn't know this, and so she goes on this little rant, living for this big rock the woman had on. She had nice clothes, nice shoes, cussing up a storm. And then Pam came over and was like, Karen, this is the first lady of this church. And so she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And she, basically was like, well, that's okay. I understand the world we live in. It's all right, but just let me know if you ever want to, make that transition and come and visit my church and all this other stuff. Like, she was not mean or mad and all that. Like, a lot of people feel like a lot of church people are stuck up and all that. There are a lot of church people who are trash human beings who really are not about that life. But there are still a lot of them who really do what they are supposed to do, and they aren't trash, and they don't sit up there and try to judge you and all this other stuff. So yeah, so that's the type that she is. So they're talking, and I was just like, girl, you doing the you doing the most. So Sabrina and Maurice are at work. Maurice is very observant, and he realizes that his friend is acting funny. So he like, girl, what's wrong with you? You been acting weird all day. Why you acting like this? So eventually she's like, look, I gotta ask you something. And so she basically was like, have you ever seen Calvin doing anything outside of drinking alcohol? And so he instantly was like, is he doing that stuff? Is he on that? What he said? I forgot how he put it. But, she was just like, look, James said something to Danny about it. He said that he actually saw him doing these drugs. And so he ends up, of course, slipping up and saying that Calvin and him are supposed to be moving in together. And so she looking confused, like, what you mean moving in together? He has a lot of money. Why would he need to move in with you? That don't even make no sense. So then he ended up spilling all his tea, talking about after everything happened with his daddy dying, the financial situation went to pot. And so then in Maurice's mind, the wheels started turning. He was like, you know what? This really might be why. And you see how people like that get down. And I'm like, oh my gosh, now he turned into a full-on drug addict. Like, stop, no. So anyway, y'all, it just got to the point where he was like, look, I don't know what he got going on, but you need to be a grown woman about yours and ask him. Y'all, am I at that part yet? Because he was doing the most. Yeah, I'm gonna just go ahead and talk about it now. Oh, no, that's a little bit later. So anyway, Fatima and Andy talked. She ended up, Fatima is like, y'all know Fatima's nosy. And so she kept walking in, asking Andy several times in her new office, needs more coffee, you need some more coffee, you need some more coffee. And so she was like, girl, you have asked me 5 times. Get in here. Close the door. So she tells her, everything went well. And she was like, thank you so much for doing what you did for me. And as far as her getting her that raise. And so she was like, no problem. Ain't no problem with that. You deserve it. You've always had my back. And, Fatima was kind of shocked a little bit. She was like, you consider me to be one of your girls? And she was like, you better be. She actually invited her out so that, she could celebrate the win. And, her other girls are going to be there. And so she was like, oh, well, I would love to come, but I have a date. Y'all know she was at. And so she was like, well, you can come through, like, if you want to. And, you don't have to cancel it. You can bring him with you. And so she was like, okay, I'll, think about that. So that's how that situation went. It's going to be a mess. So anyway, Karen ended up reading Pam about going to church. Now, this is, of course, after the woman just left. She paid and left. And so she turned around, went off on Pam and was like, did you see that ring? She was like, yes. And she was like, did you see those shoes? She was like, yes, girl. And then she read her and was like, see, that's why these simple-minded black people, that's why all these poor black people get into the situations that they're in. They're being taken advantage of. That's why all these mega churches be doing this to them. It's all because of y'all. That's the reason why they have all these things. Y'all being dumb and being taken advantage of. I was like, oh my gosh, no. Y'all, the woman came back into place. And I was like, oh my gosh, what happened? So she was like, I think I left my phone in your chair. And so she was like, phone? Oh, okay, let me see. And like, she was acting kind of weird, because she felt like she'd been found out. So she got the phone. Then she went out the door. Then she came right back. She was like, oh no, she must have heard me. And all of this, she was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to hell. I'm gonna be drugged right to hell. So she came back in there. She was like, can I talk to you for a minute outside? So she took her outside and was talking to her. And they had a little conversation. And this is when Karen actually, was able to express how she feels. But the first lady went on ahead and let her know, like, well, I mean, this is good work that we're doing. Like, this is strictly work that we're doing from the Lord, all the money that we get, the only money that we get is money that we get and we pay the people of the church who are doing work in the church. We don't receive a dime of this. Apparently her husband, who was the pastor, he is an baseball player, and she used to do like trading stocks and stuff or whatever, real estate or something, some kind of stock trade or something she used to do. So they are well off. They still get paid great. And, you know, she just had to let her know that everything is not what it seems. Everybody's not like that. And that's why she has the nice car that she's seeing her in right now and all of that. Y'all, Danny is leaving messages like crazy for Preston at work. Zach then popped up on her, brought her a sandwich, and so she is like even more suspicious. Like, why are you doing all of this? What is going on? What? And he was like, what? I can't be nice to you. I'm just trying to return the favor for all the stuff you've done for me and all this other stuff. So it's just the fact that Danny cannot understand why he is so happy about all this stuff. And then she went off on this tangent and was like, see, I don't understand this about y'all men. How is it that y'all could just hit it and quit it and just be done with somebody like it's nothing? How can y'all move on so fast? And he was looking like, well, why can't y'all move on fast? Like, I was like, oh my gosh. But anyway, it got real. It got a little bit too real for her, because she ended up asking him a question about Preston by actually bringing up her business about her being chained up, told him the whole scenario about what was said. And so he was like, can I be real with you? You were dating a white boy. Why are you expecting anything different? It's a white boy being a white boy. I was like, oh Lord, please don't say that, because everybody is not like that. But you know, it is what it is. Eventually she just was like, you know what, take your sandwich, go, whatever. So y'all, Sabrina Maurice and everybody that, you know, worked at the bank, they done locked up the bank for the night. And this woman got mad and threw up the middle finger at them and everything. It was a mess. So anyway, Jacoby was in the back filling out paperwork that he had to do, typing up some paperwork. And I mean, I guess Maurice does it pretty slow or something. And he had done it, and it's closing time. They literally closed. It's time to go. He done all the paperwork of all the financial information that needs to be submitted. Like, you done did the most, and it's literally time to go. Like, you did this and the door just locked. You done printed it off and did like, oh. And so Sabrina checked over. She was like, oh, everything is perfect. Down to the T, okay? Maurice is throwing shade left and right. He was like, are you sure? Are you sure? And it's just very apparent that he's mad that this man can do his job exceptionally well. So this man was finna leave, right? He done told everybody bye. And so Maurice was like, bye, girl. And so Jacoby turned around and was like, excuse me, what'd you say? And I was like, please don't let this be a homophobic situation. Please don't do it. Don't do it. And so he said, I said, bye, girl. And so he went over to him, composed himself, and was like, so Maurice, you know, are you okay? I heard about, you know, what happened to you. You know, that thing that happened to you or whatever. And so he was like, I'm good. You know, a girl, you know, is going to bounce back. I'm always going to be forever good over here. And so he let him know he was good. And he was like, eventually like, you know, well, I hope you have a nice night. Like, no matter what Maurice says to him, he always comes back and is nice to him. And so Sabrina even brought that up and was like, why are you always so mean to him? He was like, why are he always so nice? So anyway, I was like, oh my gosh, y'all doing the most. So it just gets to the point where he was like, look, I'm about to stay over because I got some other stuff I might have to do because he ain't finna take my job. And so I'm like, you finna do the most for what? Like, are you really that scared that he's gonna take your job? Like, wow. And then he read Sabrina's dress and he read the shoes she had on. I was like, why is this happening? So anyway, Andy had a moment to sit and talk with Hayden, and they're talking, and you know, he was reminiscing upon the fact that he'd heard about Andy before because of his affiliation with the FBI at some point, and she's wondering like, oh, so what was the information like? He was like, look, you ain't gotta worry about it. It wasn't bad. It was all good. And so she was like, okay. Well, she got a heads up that she might need to be, on the lookout for what's going on and what might happen because Gary was able to post bail. And also, right before that, he let her know that her apartment, condo, whatever it is she was living in, they've made that available for her to go back to. But she's not going to be able to have access to her other personal items like her laptop and all that stuff. But yeah, she's free to go back home. I'm sorry. As soon as I heard, oh, Gary out, and one of the police officers or guards overheard him talking, and he said that he wants his money back from you, and I'm gonna need for you to, and then he overheard that you were out with some dude at a gay bar the other night. Was any of this true? And she was like, and she was being, trying to evade, didn't want to answer. And I'm like, girl, I'm gonna need for you to and this is the dumb part, she knows how stupid and how crazy he is. She knows. Gary, one of them dudes that will kill you and then call the police and act as if they found you dead and cry over your body. Like, oh yeah, you could have did this to her. Girl, you dumb. I'm tired. I'm expecting her to end up dead unless Hayden or somebody is watching her back. Like, I'm sorry, this heifer gonna end up dead before it's all said and done if she keep on playing these games. Because he was like, if you need help, just let me know. We can have somebody to, look out for you or whatever. She was like, I'm good. I don't need any help. I don't need anything. I'm like, girl, you need to move. You need to move. I would move and make sure I had a security detail. Girl, you have enough. I would have security detail to at least last me for a year or two. I'm pretty sure she can afford that because she gonna get that $1.2 million in addition to that amazing salary she was getting before. So she can afford that. And I'll have a restraining order. I ain't got time. And I had a strap on me. I ain't got time. He gotta die. Somebody gotta kill him. Gary is the type of person you have to kill to stop. And I'm sorry, but I don't really condone violence like that. But he's just one of the people you gotta kill. You gotta kill him for him to stop. But anyway, so yeah, he was telling her to be careful. So So anyway, she don't think she in danger, whatever. She dumb. Fatima showed up at the house that Zach has to put in the sweat equity at, and they were talking. And, everybody that's there can infer that they have something going on, even if it's a little flirtatious vibe or whatever, even though they don't know for sure whether or not they've been screwing already, even though he just met her. But everybody can tell that there's definitely a vibe. Y'all, of course, this dummy, Andy, is walking through a security garage. I hate those parking decks. The parking deck that she was walking through, I hate them. Oh, I hate them so bad. The most I've ever had to park in those was when I was a social worker and I had to go to certain places, whether it was in Alabama, in Georgia, or in Florida, or whatever. I swear I hated those. But anyway, she walking by herself. Gary jumped up out of a car and was like, I need to talk to you for a minute, Andy. And she was like, Gary, don't start. And he rolled all the way up on her and was like, you need to get in the car right now. Girl, I'm just so tired. Like, you keep setting yourself up for this stupid stuff. Because she just really thinks she's untouchable for some reason. I understand you won your case and all this other stuff, but Gary is a fool. You gotta kill him. And my thing is this. If all else failed, at this point, if I were to kill him, if I would be Andy and I killed him, I could actually get off. I would be able to get off at this point because everybody knows how psychotic he is. Everybody knows the narcissistic foolishness that this fool has. Everybody knows how controlling he want to be. Like, everybody has seen it. Several other lawyers have seen it, whether they like Andy more than just a friend or not. Everybody has seen how he gets down. So they would easily believe her testimony if she were to get in front of a grand jury and say, I did it, whatever she said, they would believe. Because Gary's a fool. But anyway, y'all, thank y'all so much for watching. This was the recap review for Tyler Perry Sistas. I really do appreciate everybody who has been subscribing. Thank you very, very much. Like it if you want to, share it if you want to. Definitely comment below. I really do appreciate interacting with y'all, and it is so fun. Anyway, hopefully I'll be back before the end of this week. Y'all have a good one. Bye.